Good afternoon once again. My name is Michael Wade. I'm the Assistant Director for the Office of Multicultural Student Services here on campus, and it's our charge a lot with the programs and activities that we do is to try to offer as many opportunities as possible on campus for our campus community to learn more about culture, to learn more about social justice, to learn more about current events that are going on in society. And we're blessed to have one of the leaders that are here, that is here on campus today in the social justice movement, who's done some wonderful work, and you'll get a chance to meet him shortly. So thank you all for being here. Some quick notes about our speaker, Jaime Martinez, founder and board chair of the Cesar E. Chavez Legacy and Educational Foundation in San Antonio, Texas. Jaime has been very involved with projects there throughout his lifetime. I'll let you read the biography that you have in front of you and also that you see here on the screen, but just from me speaking and getting to know Jaime in the last hour, he has a lot of history. He's been very involved in the movement, getting involved from labor aspect to doing work with Dr. King, doing work for Dr. King, and also doing work with Ralph Abernathy, among others, throughout his life. He has a wonderful story to share, and I hope that you all are paying attention and to learn more about social justice. So without further ado, would you all help me in welcoming our guest speaker this afternoon, Mr. Jaime Martinez.
Throughout my life, I've worked all over the United States and internationally for human rights and civil rights. I come out of the labor movement, became the first Mexican American elected to a union's international executive board known as the IUE-AFL-CIO. Was founded in 1949 in Philadelphia. It's been a long, long road for me in America, wherever it took me in the challenges that are before us for social and economic justice. The same mission that Cesar Chavez undertook and established one of the most recognized unions for farm workers, the United Farm Workers of America. I met a lot of people that transformed my life, from Reverend Abernathy, Rosa Parks, Cesar Chavez, and all of them instilled in me never to give up. And if we're going to win any injustice, it has to be the never-ending struggle for nonviolence. Organizing the unorganized have always been the driving spirit behind Cesar Chavez. And I would like to share with you, before I start, I was watching this weekend the dedication of the monument of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And it inspired me to touch a little bit on some of his visions and his speech, the drum major instinct. And I'm very humbled and very honored to speak to you here today, Cesar Chavez. Mexican Americans on the March, 1969. And it inspired me that we do have leaders in this country like Cesar Chavez, Dolores Huerta, Rosa Parks, Dr. Martin Luther King, who paid their dues, but also never forgot where they came from. The story of Cesar Chavez is the story of the fight in the fields and the farm workers' struggle. Tells the story of Cesar Chavez, a charismatic founder leader of the United Farm Workers Union and the movement he inspired and led, an apostle of nonviolence who came to serve humanity. But there were challenges ahead. He was arrested many times. 5 people were killed during the struggle. And I remember one time when he came to San Antonio, they had just assassinated one of his organizers. Who was Cesar Chavez? He was our Moses figure. The farm workers who labored in the fields and yearned for respect and self-sufficiency pinned their hopes on this remarkable, simple man, soft-spoken, amazing inner strength, and led a very courageous life. And in doing so, brought dignity to the lives of so many others and provided us inspiration for the rest of our nation's history. I saw a man, this little brown man who dedicated his life totally to the nonviolent struggle for justice and the teachings, practiced and adhered to by Dr. Martin Luther King and Mahatma Gandhi. He was a Chicano man who was jealous of none without egotism, who was selfless, who did not go under when people spoke ill of him. He had no room for self-indulgence and was a strict vegetarian who practiced yoga, stood on his head for 20 minutes. He exercised. He said that created energy. The summer of 1979 in July, I received a phone call earlier that he was coming to San Antonio. I organized a rally in San Antonio, Texas, at the Mexican-American Unity Council. Cesar was traveling the country, asking support for La Causa and to continue boycotting of the grapes, Bruce Coast lettuce, and Chiquita banana. These were dangerous times for Cesar. Rufino Contreras, one of his chief organizers, had been shot in the head, and the FBI had contacted Cesar Chavez that there was a contract on his life. That night, when I introduced my brother, my friend, the apostle of nonviolence, I took a leave from my union to travel with him as security throughout Texas. I selected 4 of my close associates from the IUE, my union brothers, to join me. It was quite an experience that I will never forget the rest of my life. Cesar Chavez was a humble individual. He was a servant and stood behind La Causa's core values of honor, courage, and respect for the rights of others. In addition to being a great humanitarian and communicator who influenced and inspired millions of Americans to seek social justice and civil rights for the poor, for the disenfranchised in our society. Cesar forged a diverse and extraordinary national coalition of students like yourselves, middle class, consumers, trade unionists, religious groups, and minorities. A strong believer in the principles of nonviolence. He went to many fasts in his life. March 10, 1968, Robert Kennedy was running for president. He heard about this brown man who was fasting, ending a 25-day fast in Delano, California, in 40 acres where he had his offices. Robert Kennedy went to be beside him, and they had Holy Communion and they broke bread. He was ending a 25-day strike, protesting the pesticides, the poisonous chemicals that were dumped in the fields while farm workers were working. Families, husbands and wives, children. Children were being born without hands, without legs. They were deformed because of those poisonous chemicals kept them, which caused cancer, and so on. He stood up. Nobody wanted to listen to him. So he started fasting, 25 days without eating. I joined some of his fasts, Fast for Life. And Cesar taught us by example. I remember that morning that he passed away. I received a phone call early in the morning. My friend David Martinez found him. He was staying at a friend's house. He was on trial. They were suing the farm workers for $5 million, a poor union. And Cesar was tired. He was devastated that he had to return to court. And he was subpoenaed. And it was a very hostile environment. 2 days that he was being interrogated at the courthouse. He was worried that the $5 million would devastate the United Farm Workers. He went home that day. He was staying at a friend's house. He made something to eat, was tired. And David Martinez, who was the secretary treasurer of the union, who called me that morning, was happy that he had already mastered yoga. He could stand for 20 minutes on his head and was showing Cesar Chavez. And so Cesar started exercising, small exercises, and he tried to get on his head too. 3 times he tried, and his legs 3 times came down. He could not keep his legs up. Finally, he said, "I'm tired, I'm going to sleep." Cesar was a powerful, persuasive speaker, labor leader. And he would talk about the injustice, but also the solution to get the movement going. Farm partnerships. One day I said, we're having a meeting, and he was coming to San Antonio, and I said, I have some union leaders there ready for you. He said, Jaime, let's go to the schools. Let's go to the students. Take me to the young children in the elementaries, in high schools, and colleges, and we will plant a seed, and somebody else will come and water it. He was always thinking about planting, watering, but thinking about social and economic justice. I saw a tent. I flew from San Antonio to San Jose, and some of my staff picked me up and took me to Delano, California, where he started during the great boycotts. It was a tent, 10,000 chairs, and people were still coming, and it was full. By the morning, 50,000 people showed up. Pope John Paul II sent condolences, President sent condolences, a simple man who transformed the world regarding social and economic justice. And when I went to see him, he was still asleep. People were coming, movie stars, Martin Sheen, Edward James Olmos, and people from all walks of life, children, crying. Then indigenous from Mexico City came and got in front of the white pine casket. He left, giving a statement. The statement was he had discussed with his brother if something happens to me, Brother Richard Chavez, who designed the flag, that was his brother, said, you're a carpenter, you were in the union as a carpenter, you know how to work with wood. I want a simple white pine casket. And 6, 1, 2, 3 handles made of rope. They were on each side, 2x4s on the bottom. Everybody took some time to march with that casket. The final march that we took around Delano. And Cesar wanted to make a statement. You don't have to buy a $5,000 casket. That's not me. I'm a simple man. I came here to serve. I came here to serve. And I am leaving this world like Timothy, second book of Timothy. He ran the good race, he fought the good fight, and he kept the faith. All it takes, young men and women, serving. Whatever you decide to do, many issues on immigration, women's rights, labor rights, to serve.